All right, guys, we're going to rock and roll here on the show. The Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. Slowly coming online here. I'll confirm the channels when we go live. J-Dubs, let me know when we're live on the group. We are live on I Love CVille.
We're live.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines. I want to have a conversation on short-term rentals, as Charlottesville City Hall is hosting a public meeting on the 3rd of December, which is tomorrow from 5 to 7 p.m. in City Space. Neighborhood Development Services, that department is leading the charge. They want feedback on short-term rentals in the area. We'll talk pros and cons of short-term rentals on today's show. Pros and cons of short-term rentals, STRs, homestays. I mean, you guys probably know them as Airbnbs or VRBOs. Basically, the pros and cons of Airbnbs and VRBOs. We're going to talk on today's program. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Manning has written a letter. Seems like every one of some kind of influence is writing a letter in regards to Jim Ryan's resignation, the Department of Justice investigation of the University of Virginia as it applies to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what appears to be Abigail Spanberger, the governor-elect, who is prepared to nuclear bomb the BOV with a focus initially on Rachel Sheridan, the rector, and Porter Wilkinson, the vice rector. This is just the beginning of the story. Now Paul Manning, the Paul Manning Biotech Institute, the billionaire, is in the mix. I've been told he watches and listens to the show from time to time. We will relay the letter that Mr. Manning penned yesterday on the I Love CVille show today. Judah will talk on today's program. Instagram, owned by Meta, publicly traded company, is ordering Instagram employees to return back to the office 5 days a week. The trend continues for the publicly traded companies, many of the tech companies ordering employees to return to work. We'll talk that today. We'll highlight Virginia opening the 2026 football season, ladies and gentlemen, in Brazil against NC State. That's an intriguing location for an Atlantic Coast Conference game, Brazil. Nevertheless, Virginia is going to, from a positive standpoint, further strengthen its global brand with a football matchup against the Wolfpack in South America. What intrigues you the most today, Judah Wickower of the show?
It's interesting. There's obviously continuing letters going on at UVA. Also interesting that Senator Mark Warner, who had previously said that he would not be a career politician and would only serve two terms, is announcing his bid for a fourth term.
Yeah, the career politicians are something that aggravates the bejeebus out of me. And it happens at the local level, it happens at the state level, happens at every level of politics. And it's just the compartmentalization of power is one of the early stages of corruption that leads to corruption. Certainly not fresh thinking or fresh blood. We'll talk about that on today's show. Mark Warner's 70 years old. 70 years old. And no ageist here by any means, but 70 years old, Mark Warner.
And if you look at the average age of our politicians, it's kind of scary.
A lot we're going to cover on the broadcast. Like and share the show. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the I Love CVille Network. All right, Judah Wickower, we can rock and roll when you're ready.
Quiet on the set.
Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on a Tuesday afternoon in downtown Charlottesville. It's a pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille network, the water cooler content and conversation in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia. We encourage you, the viewer and listener, to share your thoughts and your perspective on all our shows. You, the viewer and listener, can shape the discussion and challenge us, push us, disagree with us, agree with us. Send us bottles of Macallan 12, like Holly Foster so kindly gifted us before Thanksgiving. Holly, the Macallan 12 is sitting proudly on our studio bar. Thank you again. The Queen of Henrico giving us a top shelf bottle of scotch, which Judah and I enjoyed some yesterday. A lot I want to cover on the broadcast, a public meeting tomorrow, Charlottesville City Hall, on short-term rentals. They're called homestay short-term rentals. I think the layman knows it as Airbnbs, VRBOs. Yeah, Verbos. Do they have a good image? Do they have policy that needs changing? Do they have, are they good for the community? Are they bad for the community? The hotel industry despises them. Many OGs or old guard neighborhood, neighbors and longstanding neighborhoods here in Charlottesville are opposed to Airbnbs and short-term rentals. They do create affordability when it comes to housing as a supplemental revenue stream, with mortgages at all-time highs as rates still continue to hover in the 6%, the mid 6% range. I want to unpack Airbnbs, Verbos, homestays, short-term rentals on today's program and discuss the pros and cons with you, the viewer and listener. On today's show, I also want to talk Paul Manning. This is the namesake of the Paul and Diane Manning Biotech Institute. I was corrected via email by a person of significant influence and said, you constantly call it the Paul Manning Biotech Institute. It, in fact, is named after both of them, the Paul and Diane Manning Biotech Institute. So I stand corrected and I apologize. Mr. Manning is a Board of Visitors member, UVA BOV, and Mr. Manning is a very wealthy person. He's a billionaire. He has donated $100 million to the university for his name, his wife's name, to grace the Biotech Institute in the Fontaine Avenue area of Charlottesville. That's going to be a $350 million plus project, $100 million funded from him alone. He is a PBM Capital, made his money in the baby food formula space, is instrumental in Gordonsville as an owner of God knows how many buildings and parcels of land in Gordonsville. He's the money behind Dairy Market and Dairy Central. His son-in-law, Chris Henry, who is now an international developer. Last I heard, Chris Henry and his family are living in London after pursuing a master's in business in Barcelona in Spain. His family's living in London. Mr. Manning and his son-in-law, they took what was formerly the Monticello Dairy, where McGrady's Irish Pub was, where Three Notch was, where the Splat House was, Sharky's Bar and Grill was there. Latino Bodega was there at one time, and they turned it into Dairy Market and Dairy Central. Mr. Manning, his footprint, his fingerprints and his footprints are all over Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia from an influence, wealth, development, reimagining standpoint. And now he has authored a letter which he released yesterday that tells his side of the Jim Ryan resignation saga, his side of the Department of Justice investigation that led to Ryan's resignation, and what he interprets as the right decision. In fact, interim President Judah, Paul Mahoney, was before state senators here in Virginia, along with Virginia Military Institute leadership, and they were explaining, Paul Mahoney, the interim president, the decision he made with entering an agreement with the DOJ and why it was the smart decision for the University of Virginia. We'll unpack this entire storyline on today's show. We have some deal flow that we need to pass along to you now that it's closed. The Flagstop Car Wash has acquired Charlottesville's Clean Machine. Flagstop Car Wash is a heavy hitter in the car wash space. A heavy hitter, and they, like much of private equity, are rolling car washes into a portfolio and using vertically integrated strategies and tactics and economies of scale to frankly fatten the bottom line. Automation, more technology, tech stack instead of human capital to fatten the profit center, the bottom line. We'll talk about that acquisition now that it's closed on today's show. Mark Warner has announced that he is going to seek a fourth term. Four terms of Mark Warner. Goodness gracious, the man is 70 years old. So when this fourth term, should he win, is when it's concluded, the man will be 75. I mean, to say he's an institution is an understatement. To say that I'm disappointed that someone who promised he would not be a career politician is running again is also an understatement. We'll talk Meta and Instagram ordering their staff to return to office 5 days a week. And I want to talk some football. As this line is moving, the Virginia football team opened as a 2.5-point favorite in this ACC championship clash against the Duke Blue Devils. That line has now moved to 3.5. So Virginia becoming more of a favorite to win this neutral site contest. Charlotte, Bank of America Stadium, 8 o'clock kickoff Saturday, national TV, ABC, with the winner earning an invitation, if UVA wins, to the college football playoff. If Duke wins, they will not earn an invite to the college football playoff, and instead the JMU Dukes will get that invite. So JMU fans are pulling for Duke to beat UVA. So then JMU could get an invite into the college football playoff. A lot to unpack on the show. I want to highlight Conan Owen, who I spoke with this morning, the owner, Judah, of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. We have 24 tenants in our portfolio, and the 24 tenants, when they're moving and shaking, when leases come to an end or new leases start or our tenants need signage work done around our real estate positions, Conan Owen and Sir Speedy of Central Virginia manage that or handle that on our behalf. They also have done the signage for our firm, whether it's the storefront on Market Street, the banners behind me, and other marketing materials. And they're doing it for a number of the buildings and clients that we're working alongside, whether it's commercial building owners, residential, multifamily owners. I trust Conan Owen, a Darden graduate, to take care of the signage needs. If you have a logo and you need an application for it, Conan Owen and Sir Speedy of Central Virginia are a fantastic choice. Judah Wickhauer studio camera, and then two-shot. Paul Manning's in the mix. As I've highlighted before, it's not brass knuckles and machetes. It's not backyard brawling or back alley brouhahas. It's Mont Blanc pens and corporate letterhead and thickly stuck paper that these Board of Visitors and billionaires fight with. And he's now in the mix with a letter of his own. It's an intriguing, the saga continues, if you may. A car wash trades hands, short-term rentals and Airbnb's policy perhaps needing amending or redefining. Football, Meta ordering staff, Instagram staff back to the office 5 days a week. I think everyone should be in office 5 days a week. You and I may disagree on that, but we do our best work when we're in person next to each other as opposed to communicating via Teams or Zoom or through screens. A lot to cover on the program, my friend. Where do you want to begin today?
We want to talk about short-term rentals.
You want to do it? You want to begin with short-term rentals? We got two lower thirds. I'll set the stage here. This was sent to me by a gentleman who will remain nameless unless he chooses to jump in the mix with comments on the show. This gentleman is considering a ADU in his backyard. Lives in Charlottesville City, in the JPA, Fontaine, Fry Springs area. Not to be specific, that's very broad. He's considering an ADU in his backyard where perhaps if he follows through with this, his partner, his wife, who they have a young child as well, will manage the ADU on their behalf as supplemental income, as a house hack to drive more revenue. If you watch any of the real estate podcasts, I listen to a lot of them. If you listen or follow any of the real estate influencers on Instagram or TikTok, they're talking about house hacks and how you can build generational wealth. And one of the first house hacks that's discussed is buying some dirt where an ADU can be built in the backyard, or a basement can be turned into a revenue-generating apartment. The most popular house hack is the Airbnb because of the top-line revenue that can be generated from the Airbnb. It's more significant than perhaps a consistent rental stream, monthly income. The challenge that these influencers do not discuss is the ADU generally runs about $300 to $350 per square foot to construct. I've been in this real estate game for 20 years. We have a construction crew that we work with, remodeling crew that we work with, that probably can get that in the $225 to $250 price per square foot to build an ADU in the backyard. But if you're going retail and you're pricing folks locally and you're shopping 2, 3, 4 bids, you're looking at $300 to $350 a square foot to build an ADU. And that ain't cheap, ladies and gentlemen, even if it's a tiny ADU of, call it 800 square feet back of the napkin times $350, you're talking anywhere from $280,000 to $350,000 to build this thing, okay? Plus the headache of dealing with institution or a jurisdiction like Charlottesville City.
No doubt.
Regardless, Charlottesville City, ladies and gentlemen, is got a homestay and short-term rental public meeting on December 3rd, which is tomorrow, from 5 to 7 p.m. at City Space, and it's led by Neighborhood Development Services. Where do you want to begin on this, Judah?
I mean, I think for the most part they're a good thing. Like a lot of people, there's the problem of outside companies, outside money coming in and turning houses that could be bought and sold or rented out into short-term rentals, which obviously takes away from our already minuscule stock. But on the other hand, for people that are that are living in town, people who are living in the house. My parents have one. They turned part of their basement into a rental, and
an Airbnb or a rental for an individual that's on a 12-month lease.
For short-term rentals.
Okay, so Airbnb is their source of supplemental income. Your parents, they live Southside Charlottesville. They have a very nice house. I won't say where.
Yeah.
Southside Charlottesville. They have a basement that's an Airbnb.
And they, just like you were talking about with this couple, this family, my parents take care of it. They're the ones that go down and clean it between tenants, and they've had some pretty good luck with people actually sticking around for sometimes weeks or even months. Oftentimes, people looking to stay near someone who's getting treatment for one type or another at UVA, and it's a great way to make a little extra income, help cover your mortgage costs and things like that.
Neil Williamson watching the program, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. Short-term rental is defined by the Commonwealth of Virginia as any rental less than 30 days. He also says, why does where the money come from matter? I think is that in relation to some of the Paul Manning comments, Neil? Jason Noble watching the program as well. I got print, radio, and television watching us on the show right now. Look, I'm torn on the short-term rental thing. Here's why I'm torn on the short-term rental thing, okay? Right now in Charlottesville City, short-term rentals are not policed properly. It is a wild west. I know of multiple entrepreneurs in the short-term rental space, deep-pocketed individuals who are, I will cut to the chase and be extremely straightforward here, operating outside the law with their short-term rental portfolio. And the risk they face is so insignificant that they don't mind operating outside the law. Legally, you have to be in the home, and Neil Williamson can offer some perspective here. He says where the money comes from is in relation to your comment, Judah.
Yeah.
You have to be, to operate an above board and legal short-term rental, you have to live at the address for 180 days. Half the year, you have to live at the address. Mm-hmm. But I know of half a dozen entrepreneurs, including a couple I do business with. I am not going to use their name. I don't rat anybody out, okay, that have nearly a dozen short-term rentals in the city, and you do the basic math, they can't live at one address for 180 days if they have nearly a dozen Airbnbs around the city.
Yeah.
Okay, I think if we're going to fix might not be the right word. I think what we need to do is level the playing field. We level the playing field by very clear-cut rules and regulations, and we need to police and enforce the rules and regulations. So if that playing field is you have to be at the location, at the physical address for half the year, 180 days, to have a short-term rental, then that needs to be enforced. And there's plenty of software out there that can scrub Airbnb, VRBO websites and their counterparts, and pretty much cross-reference with the GIS who owns what and where. And that's not being done right now by City Hall. It's not being enforced. I think we also must enforce the tax collection associated with Airbnbs and short-term rentals.
Yeah.
If not, the city is just losing revenue. The hotel industry is incredibly lobbying, vehemently lobbying aggressively at a macro national level down to the hotel industry locally against short-term rentals. They say the playing field is not even, the tax collection is not even. Airbnb is a nightmare to deal with. They straight up ghost local jurisdictions and make auditing or policing their records, their platform extremely difficult. They do it on purpose. And frankly, Airbnb should be a champion of their vendors, their users, their housing providers, and should not have to should not open their books to local jurisdictions. I don't blame Airbnb or VRBO for being cantankerous with local jurisdictions that are looking for insight into their business models. I completely get it. Okay? I understand the what people would call NIMBYs, or the crotchety old farts in neighborhoods that don't want an Airbnb on their block or as their neighbor or next to them. I understand the transient nature of Airbnbs on how that could create perceived, whether actual or not, but perceived safety issues because of the transient nature of guests. Could create perceived parking problems on streets because of an influx of vehicles over popular weekends or popular weeks. I see all sides. What I do know is this, as we head into this meeting tomorrow, what I do know is this: Charlottesville City Hall has not done a very good job with creating a level playing field with short-term rentals. And by level playing field, I mean one with clear-cut rules and regulations that are policed and enforced. There's entirely too much gray area. And as a result of that gray area, there's people, like in any sector of business or any walk of life, some folks feel way more comfortable living in the fast lane, in the gray area, 20 miles over the speed limit, whatever you want to call it, than others. And those that are living in this gray area are making a hell of a lot more money than those who are playing by the book. I will offer, as a free market guy, as an entrepreneur and business person, as a land rights guy, as a small government guy, if I have a piece of land and I have the financial resources to build something in my backyard or my front yard or utilize my basement a certain way, I would like to take advantage of that. Am I doing that now? No. Would I ever do it? Probably not. We have 4.5 acres. We live in Ivy. We could easily do it. We have a basement that we're not utilizing with a bedroom and a bathroom and its own entrance and exit. We could easily do this. Mm-hmm. Our home is 8 minutes from John Paul Jones Arena and Scott Stadium, and I could probably cherry pick 18 to 20 weekends a year and make $2,000 to $3,000 per weekend if I wanted to. And it would not be that hard to do. But we don't want to do it. We have young children. We have a German Shepherd. We don't need to do it. Okay? But I understand in a free market where this community is getting so effing expensive, and you're trying to build wealth and build something for yourself, and you have an opportunity to make supplemental income, props, I'm all for it. I just want it to be done within a playing field of rules and regulations that people have to operate within and are policed or enforced.
Yeah, and in response to Neil Williamson, it's not so much money that's the problem. It's just like Jerry said, people being able to purchase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. And
I have a buddy. I have someone I would call a friend that is operating. I think it's 13 of them.
Oh my goodness. And that's, I think that that disrupts the housing market. People trying to look for a place to live. I can understand somebody trying to make some money. My sister rents her place out when she goes out of town.
And your sister's a tenant.
Yeah.
Your sister does not own her place.
Right.
And at
least as far as I know.
When she leaves, she is short-term renting her lease.
Yeah.
I would question if that's even legally allowed with her lease. It might be a don't ask, don't tell with the landlord.
Could be.
Maybe the landlord allows that. I have 24 of them. I would never allow that with my rentals.
This is also not in Virginia. So
I get that. We won't say where.
Yeah.
We won't say where. My leases specifically say you cannot do that.
Right.
And I would bet if it's any kind of boilerplate lease that your sister has signed, it would say the same thing. But hey, it's gray area and people choose to live in it.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example of what we're talking about here. Your parents, on the other hand, are not living in the gray area.
Right.
They're living in, and if you know Judah Wickower, he's a man of incredible integrity. And the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree with his mom and dad. The people that I know would not be breaking the rules. And they're not because they live there and they're just running their basement.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they're doing it what? You count on 2 hands the amount of times they do it per year.
At least. They keep it pretty...
Oh, so you're saying this is a year-round?
Yeah, they built the thing to
Good for them.
To rent out, and it's as soon as they put it up there, they started getting, like I said, even though it's short term for the most part, a lot of the people that come in and use it are visiting family at UVA, someone going through cancer treatment, and they want to be close, and they don't want to stay in a hotel for a month or more, and this is a great spot.
So, I mean, back of the napkin, are your parents generating more than $50,000 a year in top-line revenue with their basement rental?
I couldn't tell you.
Back of the napkin.
I mean, I'm not even sure how much they charge. So it would be really hard for me to do back of the napkin.
Neil Williamson watching the show, comments coming in quickly. I'm going to then relay a text message that was sent to me by someone who I'm not going to identify. About short-term rentals, who is considering, I led the show, doing an ADU in his backyard. Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum, says, frankly, many short-term rental customers are better neighbors than some of the long-term renters.
No doubt.
I'd have to hear the argument on that. Okay?
Well...
You can make that argument. Neil Williamson also says short-term rentals should be mandated to have a business license and an annual short-term rental registration. Such registrations can be pulled for non-compliance. And he says, Jerry, if your friend operated 13 long-term rentals, would that be different? Yes, it would be different because 13 long-term rentals are within the playing field and the rules and regulations. 13 short-term rentals are against the rules and regulations. Because currently it says you have to be there 180 days, half the year at the physical address to operate. This is from someone who I have met with in person, and then since meeting with him in person at my office, I'll call him a real estate entrepreneur and aspiring. Actually, I'll say he's a real estate entrepreneur, has a rental property, and he's considering an ADU at his house. I think this guy is extremely intelligent. He's young. He has a young family. He has a lot of upside. I see a lot of where I was at his age, okay? He says, Charlottesville is wrapping up its short-term rental homestay regulation update, and this is the final public comment meeting before it goes to City Council. I'll be attending to advocate for short-term rentals with 2 main goals. 1, make sure owner-occupied short-term rentals are explicitly allowed in multi-unit properties such as ADUs or basement apartments when the owner lives on site. 2, to advocate for allowing short-term rentals operated by local residents. Some positive points I will be making in my meeting. This brings in local tax revenue. It helps families offset mortgages. It helps families offset the high upfront costs of building ADUs and missing middle housing, which is one of the goals of the new zoning. It provides flexible income for caregivers and residents who cannot work full-time jobs. It keeps tourism dollars in the local economy. It creates jobs for local contractors, tradespeople, and cleaners. And he says, I really believe short-term rentals, when tied to people who actually live here, are a meaningful wealth-building opportunity and should have a place in our city. Over-restricting them just raises prices and pushes more housing into unregulated, under-the-table territory. Thank you for helping us spread the information. And he says, if you could talk about this on the show as a connected person, he would really appreciate it. And that's how we got this topic. We're crowdsourcing information. Comments continue to come in. Local newspaper, 2 TV stations, and 1 radio station watching the show. Legacy media, you should be covering this in your news cycle if you are not already. This should be a part of your news cycle if it's not already. I will go to Deep Throat next, if you want to put his photo on screen. Number 1 on the family. He says on short-term rentals, just to give you a sense of how incompetent the city has been on this, the policy at present is that you cannot rent an entire property as short-term rental unless it is a primary residence. You live there 180 plus days per year, and the city has always cried, we can't figure out if it is really a primary residence, whenever people complain about illegal short-term rentals. So here's my story. 2 Airbnbs on my street, never been a problem, to be clear, both owned by LLCs. Each LLC's ownership can be found with a 5-second Google search. Short-term rental number 1 belongs to a couple that are literally the subject of huge Shelter magazine spreads relating to their many homes, including their primary home in New York effing City. It's a prominent New York social couple. The second short-term rental is owned by Rich Dimer, a prominent UVA donor who lives in Henrico, again easily found. Both of these properties listed on local and national short-term rental sites. CVille City Administration is an overstuffed short bus.
Ouch.
So I guess my point is, whatever policy the city settles on, do you trust the people charged with enforcing the policy? Can they do it or not? Are they drooling idiots incapable of managing any degree of complexity? If the latter, what can you do other than ban them outright? He says, here's old data. Of all short-term rental units in this data set, 45% were listed by a host with more than 1 listing in Charlottesville to his or her name. So he just gave me a data set via Twitter DM, and this data set shows 45% of the short-term rentals are illegally operated.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Ginny Hu, thank you for the retweet. We appreciate it. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Put them in the feed. We'll relay them live on air. Judah Wickhauer, jump in the mix, then we'll get the comments from viewers and listeners.
He makes a good point. How do we trust them with the job they've been doing so far? Hopefully they will. Hopefully they'll get some good advice. They'll pass some good laws, and they will get better at policing the situation. Potentially, that there is, again, the people buying and setting up short-term rentals from outside of the area are, potentially taking money out of the area. They're, not locals. They're not shopping locally. They're not buying locally. It's, the problem we often run into with big corporations just buying up land or houses or whatever, and doing what they want.
If you have a short-term rental, there's one cleaning solution for the short-term rental, and it's the folks at Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. 61 years in business, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. The Vermillions own Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. You can visit them online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. They have a fantastic deal on Miele vacuums. The discount, Judah Wickhauer.
Discount is 25% off on not just vacuums, but vacuum products as well.
Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, in business for 61 years and run by a family with 5 generations of ties to Albemarle County. The Manhattan socialites that own the short-term rental and Deep Throat's very premier and prestigious in Tony City neighborhood, they are, in fact, as you said, Judah, literally taking tax dollars away from the city. Unregistered, unlicensed, undocumented, no tax collection, balling out in Manhattan while their mansion is flush with visitors, deepening their pockets and their wealth.
And then besides tax money, there's also the money that they make from renting it out, and they're not spending that in the area where the short-term rental exists.
It gets back again to something that I've seen, unfortunately, too many times with Charlottesville not being able to get out of the way of itself. It could not get out of the way of itself with this camping, sheltering ordinance. Okay? I would imagine that's going to be back on the table after they're going to spend soup to nuts more than $10 million on a homeless shelter on Holiday Drive.
That's years away, though.
I wouldn't say it's years away.
You don't think?
The remodel, I would hope, would be finished, close of business 2026, if not sooner. I would hope. Time will tell. The city can't get out of its way with the short-term rentals. I mean, it's a long example of this. Jason Noble's photo on screen. Another option in the city is a medium-term rental. It's a great option for renting a room or small place in the 1,200 to 1,600 range. Give me more insight into what you mean by medium-term rental, Jason Noble, and I'll relay those comments live on air. John Blair's photo on screen, number 2 in the family. He says, one thing that the short-term rental conversation should not focus on is housing. New York City implemented the heaviest short-term rental regulations in the nation. The Wall Street Journal did a deep dive on the effect of the regulation on housing vacancies and prices. The Journal found that the regulations, after 2 years, did not have any material effect on rents or vacancies. Whatever the merits or demerits there are in the short-term rental debate, I don't think that they have a serious effect on increasing or decreasing the housing supply. So John Blair, who works in local government and is an extremely intelligent person, is pushing back directly on the gentleman who sent us the text message, who's advocating for short-term rentals, saying it will have an impact on housing supply. I'm with John on this. I also want to emphasize with all the new development and all the incremental jobs that are coming to this market, it's clear we have a potential housing crisis as it applies to single-family detached housing. I don't think there is a housing crisis in the least when it applies to multifamily housing or apartment or attached housing, certainly not rentals.
Especially with everything that's coming to our area.
Single-family detached housing in Charlottesville and Albemarle County, there's going to be a housing crunch without question. And that's still the American dream, but for how much longer? Jason Noble says the medium rental, he's talking about monthly furnished rentals for traveling professionals. Great comment from Jason Noble. We, in one of our rentals, leased during COVID to the traveling nurse. And for folks, it was at a 2.5x clip of what market rent would suggest, the traveling nurse. And that was also because of the shorter nature of the lease. All right, 110 marker. More comments, Judah Wickhauer. Next headlines, put them on screen.
We've got Paul Manning defending his actions as well as, by proxy, Sheridan's and the rector and vice rector.
Paul Manning is the article's in Virginia Business, virginiabusiness.com. The headline, Manning defends UVA negotiations with the DOJ. Paul Manning has penned a letter which he sent yesterday to UVA's faculty senate and fellow board members defending his actions in university negotiations with the U.S. Department of Justice. Paul Manning, frankly speaking, was thrown under the bus by Jim Ryan when Jim Ryan wrote a letter, basically airing, showing the dirty laundry and the skeletons of the closet of this entire process. Mm-hmm. Since Jim Ryan's letter, there's been a game of what's it called? Dominoes, when you tip one over and it creates a chain reaction of letters that have followed suit. Mm-hmm. Now Paul Manning is in the mix. It would strike me if I was Jim Ryan that you should not have an enemy like Paul Manning. You want to set the stage of what's going on here, Judah Wickower?
I think you did a pretty good job of it, but yeah, Manning is giving similar arguments to the arguments that interim President Mahoney was giving to senators, Democratic senators in the in his address, the State Senate subcommittee, and basically saying that whether or not the government was going to do anything to UVA, just the fact that they could withhold funds for a period of time would have done a lot of damage itself. And Manning is stating that he considers Ryan a friend, and his arguments were made in what's the word I'm looking for? In good faith, and that he thought that at the time that he spoke with Ryan, that this was the best course of action.
Paul Mahoney, the interim president, is saying the agreement with the Department of Justice was the smart move. He's made that argument, which is compelling, in front of state senators, which basically have called him and VMI leadership in front of Virginia senators. Paul Manning is making the same argument. Mm-hmm. Rachel Sheridan, Porter Wilkinson is making the same argument. Jim Ryan is saying something completely different. Yeah. Abigail Spanberger is basically alluding that she's going to blow up the BOV. Virginia Democrats are chastising UVA BOV members and Mahoney, the interim president, for entering into this agreement with the DOJ, which allows the DOJ quarterly audit of the University of Virginia to see if DEI, among other things, has truly been eradicated.
But I don't believe that's free access.
Virginia provides the information to them quarterly, and the DOJ, if they don't feel the University of Virginia is being transparent enough, can take it a step further.
But that would involve dissolving the agreement, whereas there are other ways this could have ended, where the DOJ would have potentially had greater access to UVA and more ability to put the hurt on UVA.
They could have taken the money. They leveraged the $500 million to $1 billion, depending on who you ask, a year in federal funding, which would have, without question, translated into layoffs. And research being halted. And if there's Jim Ryan's side, there's Rachel Sheridan's side, and there's somewhere the truth in the middle. But from where I stand, going into an agreement with the Department of Justice, and are they overreaching? Yes. But it's the playing field that UVA had to deal with at the time. And entering into this agreement to preserve $500 million to $1 billion in federal funding, depending on who you ask and who's doing the counting, was the right move.
While also not paying out any money to the DOJ like several other universities did.
Yeah. Was the right move. If Harvard, and Deep Throat's watching the program, he's a Harvard alum. If they want to go balls to the wall into war with the Department of Justice and the Trump administration, props to them. I think Harvard's endowment is it 5 times the size of UVA's? Harvard University endowment. I should know that. That's number one. They have $56.9 billion, right? UVA's is 15.
More than 3 times.
So we're talking, what, 3.5 times the size?
At least, yeah.
Harvard, you want to go to war with them? That's fine. The University of Virginia is not in a position to do that. Okay? Research would have been halted and jobs would have been cut. Mm-hmm. And Mahoney made the right move. Okay? And the reality is Sheridan and Wilkinson are going to fall on the sword when Spanberger's in the governor's office.
Probably.
And they'll be sacrificial lambs.
Yeah.
They'll be stigmatized and scapegoated for the rest of their lives. This will follow them on the internet from here until their death. That's why I've advised Sheridan and Porter Wilkinson, if they care, you can control the narrative a little bit more with a resignation. Or you can go and be fired. And then you will be number 2 and number 3 in UVA BOV history who's been fired from one of the most prestigious and premier boards in all of the Commonwealth, Bert Ellis being number 1. Bert Ellis, whenever someone talks about Bert Ellis, at his eulogy, everywhere except for his tombstone, it's going to say, Bert Ellis fired from the UVA BOV. When his obituary is written, it will say, fired from the UVA BOV. It may or may not be etched on his tombstone, depending if the Jim Ryan henchmen have anything to do about it or not. That's Sheridan and Wilkinson's future and legacy waiting to happen as well. And they must understand that. Next comments. Judah Whitcarroll, next headline. What do you got?
We have Flagstop.
All right.
A Richmond business that is
Deal
buying
flow
up properties.
Deal flow from our firm. You want to set the stage here?
Yeah, Flagstop Car Wash has been acquiring a lot of smaller businesses, building their own position, and they are currently the leading market position in Richmond. They're recognized as one of the top 25 fastest growing companies in Richmond, and they've purchased recently Clean Machine, a Flex Car Wash in Charlottesville, as well as Aqua Wash, an express car wash in Zion Crossroads.
I am choosing my words carefully of this because of associations and ties here. There is some surprise on my end, that the Suttons and Tiger
Didn't buy these up first?
allowed Flagstop in the market. That's the extent of what I'm going to say on that. It is a talk show, and I need to provide you compelling content. But I need to do it in a way while also respecting deal flow and anonymity. I am somewhat surprised on that. Okay? The Flagstop Car Wash is a major player. Mm-hmm. Okay? They are purchasing onesies and twosies and rolling them into a portfolio.
Yep.
And they're well-financed, they're backed, they have perspective, they have strategy, they have leadership, they have expansion plans, they have capital. This is the heaviest of, this is a heavy hitter, a company founded in 1981. Mm-hmm. Okay, 1981. So you have decades here and significant money behind it.
Yep.
The car wash business is extremely lucrative. I am bullish on a handful of businesses that are cash cows. One of them is car wash, especially with the automation that is associated with car washes set up the right way. I also have a client that's in the storage business, and I have to be careful what I say here. This client that's in the storage unit business locally and elsewhere is effing printing money. He has one employee and a boatload of all automation at each of his storage storage locations. These are storage that are HVAC'd and air conditioned and heated. The top line storage. And these machines, these operations, these models run themselves, ladies and gentlemen, with like a $12 or $14 or $15 an hour employee and a bunch of technology. They are cash cows. Now, it takes money to set them up, but they are cash cows. Okay? I am surprised that Tiger allowed these folks in the market instead of quartering the market for their own.
Yeah.
That's the extent of what I'm going to say on that topic. But that's some deal flow for you. Flagstop is no joke. It is no joke. And this comment comes in, and I'm not going to say from whom. These guys just walked into the market, and after what they spent, it's an absolute bummer of a day for small business. And that's that's tied to the space. And this is something that was in the notebook ready to relay on the 23rd of October. It is now being passed on to you on December 2nd. All right, next topic. What do you got, Judah Wickower?
Senator Warner.
All right, I want to spend about 2 minutes on this. Mark Warner is 70 years old, Judah.
Yeah.
Mark Warner has promised Virginians that he's not going to be a career politician. Mark Warner has indicated he is going to run for re-election.
Mm-hmm.
He announced that today. Mark Warner is 70 years old. I'm not an ageist. He's 70 years old. This will be what? His fourth term?
Yeah, this will be his fourth term.
He's going to run on a platform that is word salad. Affordable housing, universal health care, growth in manufacturing and infrastructure, gun control, and support for veterans. Mark Warner's platform is akin to the seventh grader who ran on a platform that math is going to be replaced by recess and that we're going to get free Snicker bars and pizzas and Tootsie Roll Pops every day that you walk into school, and there's no more homework. That's what Mark Warner's platform is. He's 70 years old if he wins, and he ran last time by 500,000 plus, won last time by 500,000 plus votes.
Yeah.
He will finish as a 75-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an ageist, but I'm one that wants to let some youthful young blood in the mix. Think about what we have. Warner potentially, Tim Kaine, how long has he been around? Mark Warner, how long has he been around?
Since 2008.
Friend of the program, David Toscano, how long was he around? Creed Eads, how long has he been around? Ann Malik, this is Malik's fifth term on the Board of Supervisors. Diantha McKeel, she's finally retiring. Ned Galloway, his third term. Lloyd Snook, his second. Michael Payne, his second. Juan Diego Wade's going to approach his second. Next topic, what do you got? Meta, Instagram? Instagram is requiring its employees to return to office 5 days a week.
I'm surprised they're still out there.
I applaud Meta for this, and I'm going to catch so much heat. Get back to work, get back in the office. In-person work is way better than screen work, Zoom work, Teams work, whatever you want to call it. There's no better way to create a culture or to build company momentum or work on a mission as a team than face-to-face, in-person, sweating, success, failing together.
But you think that's top-down for everyone the best thing?
We're human beings. Human beings are meant to connect in three-dimensional spaces.
Says the extrovert.
We are not meant to connect in our best capacity through one-dimensional spaces and screens. Eventually, could that change? Maybe, but the technology, even with Teams and Zooms, is not there. And I understand I'm an extrovert, and I understand I own commercial real estate, and that commercial real estate has more value when there's butts and fannies working in that real estate. I get it. But I also have clients that have tried to do the digital, work remote, hybrid work, whatever the heck you want to call it, excuse my language, and they've said it's an absolute nightmare. They're not sure if people are working, where they're working from, how focused they are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It takes an incredibly unique skill set, a motivated skill set, to work 50, 60 hours a week by yourself and to produce at a clip that would be the same with your boss sitting next to you in an office. Oversight is important for accountability in production. That's what I found, what my clients are saying. My 2 cents. The last headline, is it football?
I think so.
The line has moved. It opened at 2.5. Duke and Virginia. The winner of this contest, no, excuse me, I have to choose my words carefully. If UVA wins, they go to the college football playoff. If UVA loses to Duke, JMU is going to go to the college football playoff, and the Atlantic Coast Conference is not going to have a representation or representative in the college football playoff. So if you're an ACC fan, you pull for UVA. If you're a Duke fan or a JMU fan, you pull for Duke. If you're a UVA fan, you know who you pull for. The line opened at 2.5. It's now 3.5. So the betting line, at least the early early betting flow, is on Virginia. We'll see what the Sharps do as we get closer to kickoff. Cam Robinson not playing, that impacts things, but this Virginia football team on paper has entirely too much talent to lose to Duke. We'll give some love to Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. If there's a hardscape dream or a hardscape idea that you have, there's only one company you call, and it's Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. Whether it's at your home, a fire pit, a patio, around your swimming pool, some kind of outdoor kitchen, or it's at your business, this team at Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes can make it something special. And I'll tell you what, their downtown design center is impressive in the Wells Fargo building, and their local point of contact, Tim Hess, knows hardscapes like what? My brother knows hobos in his front yard in California. He's going to hate me for saying that. It's just and they have a really nice house. Got some hobos there.
It
All right.
attracts hobos, I guess.
That's the talk show. Judah Wickhauer, Jerry Miller, the I Love CVille show. So long.